good morning. We're going to start with public comment, and we have one public comment this morning, Mr. Keith Edwards. And you'll have 5 minutes. If you want, could you come up to the podium, please?
Good morning, everybody. My question is goose oiling egg, or goose egg oiling. The state pays to have people go out, oil the eggs to kill them off. Why can we not have an early goose season in, say, March, April, and let the goose hunters do what we pay to do and instead of paying somebody to go do it? That's pretty much my only question.
Okay. It's kind of out of what we usually do, but Jason, you want to?
For back the hearing in regards to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services rules and regulations. As it concerns migratory birds.
Yeah, the latest we can have, well, latest or earliest, depending on how you look at it, in the resting population zone. We can go in the very early March, but that we can't go further into March or April, just under the federal framework. So running that season until basically the end of February, like we do, is about as late as we can go.
Yeah, because that doesn't do anything for the nesters here. And that's what I was wondering, is instead of oiling and taking opportunities from the hunter, why not give the hunters another opportunity? I mean, that's,
Ian, you might want to, for the benefit of all, explain how the seasons are structured and who has.
So, yeah, just in the big picture, for all migratory game birds, so geese, ducks, doves, woodcock, all of those species, they're different than deer and bear and turkey that the board can set the seasons for Pennsylvania without regard to what other states are doing or the federal government. Migratory game birds are ultimately under federal authority under the Migratory Bird Treaty Act. So ultimately, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has the authority to set those seasons. The states are involved through the Flyway Council process. We actually just hosted the Atlantic Flyway Council meeting in Lancaster this week and talked about some of the seasons for next year. Those state Flyway Council recommendations go to the Fish and Wildlife Service, but then ultimately they make the decisions on what the outside frameworks are in terms of how many hunting days we can have for those species, what's the earliest opening and latest closing dates, which is specifically in regard to your question, Mr. Edwards, the latest closing date, bag limits and all that type of stuff. Then they give us frameworks that we can select our seasons within. We have some flexibility to choose, but we can't be more, we can always be more restrictive than the frameworks, but we can't be more liberal. So again, in regard to that question specifically, we can go into early March, we can close earlier than that if we want to, but we can't go into March or April without a change at the federal level.
Thank you, Ian.
okay.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you.
If I could just take 1 second, Paul. This question.
Yes, sir.
It's DCNR. It's not the Game Commission. The Game Commission is not going to.
Right, it's DCNR.
It's DCNR.
Okay, thank you. Madam President?
I'd like to call this meeting to order. If you could all rise, remove any cover, and join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning for the September 16th quarterly Pennsylvania Game Commission Board of Commissioners meeting here in Erie, Pennsylvania. Standing in as secretary today will be Commissioner Knick. So Commissioner Knick, if you could please call the roll.
Commissioner Schnipp-Geiger,
Present.
Commissioner Fordor,
Here.
Commissioner Fredericks,
Here.
Commissioner DeMarco,
Here.
myself, Commissioner Knick here, Commissioner Metrick here, Commissioner Pride,
Here.
Commissioner Sankey,
Present.
Commissioner Schlamm,
Present.
All present, Madam President.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from our meeting held on July 8th, 2023?
So move.
And a second?
Second.
Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam President.
Thank you.
The first item for consideration can be found on page 2 of your agendas. Black rails are the smallest rail species in North America and the most secretive in behavior and habitat. Although this species is considered uncommon in Pennsylvania, strong evidence indicates territories have been established and nesting may have been attempted. In 2020, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service classified the eastern black rail subspecies Lateralis jamaicensis as threatened under the Endangered Species Act of 1973, indicating between 0 to 5 breeding pairs currently occur in Pennsylvania. The Commission is proposing to amend Section 133.21 to add the black rail to the Commonwealth's list of threatened birds due to its federally protected status and small, sporadic state population.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 4 of your agendas. The American marten is a fur bearer once commonly found in portions of Pennsylvania, but extirpated from the Commonwealth in the early 1900s due to deforestation and unregulated harvest. In accordance with Goal 1.3B of the Pennsylvania Game Commission Strategic Plan 2020 through 2023, and as authorized by the Commission at its July 9, 2022 meeting, the Bureau of Wildlife Management completed an American marten reintroduction and management plan for Pennsylvania. The plan outlines a long-term, 10-year strategy to translocate the species back to the state and then conduct long-term monitoring to evaluate the reintroduction. Important aspects of the plan include release locations and source locations, as well as partnering organizations to provide martens and reintroduction locations. It also discusses methodology on capture, transport, health evaluations, and release. Finally, the plan provides a timeline and cost estimate for the project. The Bureau of Wildlife Management is requesting that the Board of Game Commissioners release the plan to the public for a 60-day comment and review period, as per guidance from PGC SOP 40.7 Species Management Plans. Comments received and any resulting revisions to the plan would be presented at a future meeting of the Commission to inform a final decision on acceptance and implementation of the plan.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think it's important to reiterate that this is a very critical time for the public to weigh in on the plan, and this is part of the process that we go through for all of our plans, so we encourage the public to speak up. This is the time.
So to Commissioner Sankey's point, this does not mean we're putting martens on the landscape in Pennsylvania tomorrow. This is a public comment period. If you love the idea, we want to hear from you, and if you hate the idea, we also want to hear from you. So please get your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions into us. Mr. Secretary, will you please call the vote?
All in favor?
Aye.
And 143.30 and deleted sections 143.22, 143.26, and 143.28 to reduce issuing agent application fees, minimum annual sales quotas, and annual bonding rates. The proposed amendments appear on pages 6 and 7 of your agendas.
Do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President, we have a small matter to address with this rulemaking concerning the Attorney General's previous approval of the same. As you're aware, the Attorney General's office has an approval process associated with all of the Game Commission's rulemakings. Pursuant to the recent approval of the proposal of this rulemaking, the Attorney General's office had expressed some concern with the removal or the complete removal of section 143.28. Their concern is simply associated with not having any period of application designated within the regulation. As you can see from the text of the proposal, in order to satisfy that concern, we gave assurances to the Attorney General's office that we would re-implement 143.28 by adding in language indicating that it will be a full year application period and also specifying the process for submission. It is important for us to consider this amendment that we have put forth on floor amendment page 7 so as to satisfy the Attorney General's concern, as our final adoption approval would be contingent upon that correction.
Thank you for the clarification. Any additional discussion?
We'll need a motion for the amendment. Motion for the amendment.
Motion to accept the amendment as stated on floor amendment page 7,
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, Madam President.
The next item for consideration can be found on page 8 of your agendas, hunting opportunities. When considering electronic devices, the Commission generally reviews to what degree use of a given device might negatively impact principles of resource conservation, equal opportunity, fair chase, or public safety. The Commission's review of these devices determined that their use would have insignificant negative impacts to the previously mentioned principles. Therefore, the Commission is proposing to amend Section 141.18 to authorize electronic devices used to disturb water with the purpose of preventing ice formation. The amendments can be found on page 8 of your agendas.
Do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second? Any discussion? Mr. Secretary, please call the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Go unaddressed. The Commission is proposing to amend Section 135.
Have it, Madam President.
Thank you.
The next item for